Q. Will you tell us the exact procedure which was followed when the gold arrived? A. I was not always present, or even often, but I suppose it did not vary.
Mr. Wellington brought the money in a small black bag. Usually it was gold, tied up in small canvas sacks with the necks wired and a lead seal on each one. He would cut the wire, and my wife would then count the money as it lay on her bed. Mr. Wellington would then enter the amount in the book and my wife would sign it.
Q. And after that? A. It was simply a matter of putting the sacks, or the folder with the currency, into the chest.
He would draw out the chest, my wife would give him her key, and he would then deposit the money and lock the chest again.
Q. Your wife could see all this? A. I am not certain.
She could at first. The box was taken out and placed on 2 chairs beside the bed. Later on it was too heavy, and was merely drawn out and opened.
Q. Then it would have been possible for a substitution to be effected later?
That is, a second bag containing these lead weights might have been placed in the chest, and the bag with the gold have gone back into the valise? And so on?
A. I suppose it might be possible, yes.
But I think it highly unlikely. I have known Mr. Wellington all his life, etc., etc. This was the theory to which Helen referred that afternoon, and her comment on it was characteristic. Now can anybody see poor Jim figuring all that out? She said. Jim, who remembers that a party needs gin after all the bootleggers have put on their dress clothes and gone to the opera. He's a good sort, and he's mine and so I like him, no matter what you may think, Lou, and not all the time either. But that's neither here nor there. And she added in her casual fashion, I suppose Emily really did it. I know I would, in her case. She was a horrible old woman. With which I finally went back home, to a light supper and a heavy but disturbed sleep through which Helen Wellington moved gaily and irresponsibly, and our own Annie was writing an anonymous letter to the police, which is the only time in my life when a dream turned out to be true, as we learned after the case was over. It was from this dream that I wakened early the next morning to the discovery of our second murder, that of Emily Lancaster herself. Chapter 22. The circumstances were peculiar as well as tragic. Miss Emily, having slept most of the day, had apparently been wakeful that night and at 1 o'clock in the morning she had gone out to the kitchen porch. There she had evidently sat for a time, eating an apple, a portion of which with the knife for paring it was found on the table there later on. As the porch is an enclosed and locked one, this is understandable enough, although rather strange after the events of the night before. What followed was less so. For some reason then unknown she had left the porch, gone out onto the rear path and followed it toward the Talbots. She was clad much as she had been the night before, for under her wrapper she still wore her nightdress, although she had put on her shoes and stockings and a petticoat. The path, familiar to her for many years, she had apparently followed without difficulty, although the night was dark and overcast. There were no prints on her flat-heeled shoes to show that she had left it at any time. But only 30 yards from the rear of the Talbot house that tragic walk of hers had ceased. Someone, perhaps hidden in the shrubbery, had shot at her and killed her. That is the brief story of our second murder as it was reconstructed at the time, and it is not the least dramatic part of it that George Talbot had not only heard the shot but had gone outside to investigate it, and that because she had fallen into the shrubbery he must have passed close by her body without seeing it. I heard a shot, he told the police, and I got my gun at once. I knew it was not a car backfiring, for it came from the rear of the property and there is no road there. Well, it's pretty hard to get out of our house at night in a hurry, so I used an old kid trick of mine. I got out onto the roof of the summer kitchen, which is low, and dropped from there. I had no flashlight, but I took a pretty good look around and I saw nothing and nobody, although I thought once I heard some movement near our stable. I gave it up then, and I had a hard time getting back into the house. But at last Mother came down to admit me. She had heard no shot, nor had my Aunt Lydia, but Lizzie, who has been with us for years, had heard it. She was awake with a toothache. That's all I know about it. I went back and went to sleep. It was 1:45 then. The shot was at 1:30. And that for some time was all anybody seemed to know about it. It was Eben who found her that Monday morning at 7:30, on his way to get the lawn mower from the Talbot garage. He saw what looked like a black cloth lying among the syringa bushes which bordered the path, and stooped to pick it up. It would not lift, however, and then he saw that he had uncovered a woman's foot. It was after that he yelled, and the street cleaner, Daniels, who was in no man's land with some debris from Euclid Street, heard him and came running. He seemed stricken when he saw the body, and neither he nor Eben had touched it when the Talbots' Lizzie came on a run.